Hey everybody, it's GauntletX, and welcome back to another Lord of the Rings Tales of Middle-earth Early Access Draft. Thanks again to Wizards of the Coast for this promotional early access account, and without further ado, let's get into the draft. For our pick one, pack one here, we've got Samwise Gamgee as our rare. A green and a white for a 2/2 whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control. Create a food token, and you can sacrifice 3 foods to return a historic card from your graveyard to your hand. So, artifacts, legendaries, and sagas are historic spells. There are particularly a lot of legendaries and artifacts in this format, and there's a lot of food token production and other ways to use food tokens. So Samwise Gamgee fits really well into the green-white archetype in this format, which is based around a lot of halflings, which is the name of the hobbits in the format, and food tokens in general. So Samwise Gamgee seems like a pretty fun, pretty strong place to go, and that is where we're going to go to start off this draft. Pack 1, pick 2 now. Nothing great in green or white to follow that up. Enraged Horn seems like a fine tree folk. 5 mana, 4/5 tramples, a fine stat line. Tempting the Ring when it hits the battlefield is strong as well. The Tempting of the Ring is one of the other new mechanics. When you tempt it the first time, you make something legendary, make it so it can't be blocked by creatures with greater power, and every time you tempt the ring from that point on, you're stacking more and more and more abilities onto your ring bearer. So pretty cool mechanic where the ring bearer gets stronger and stronger the more the ring tempts you. There's a Took Reaper, which is a solid cheap halfling to go with Samwise Gamgee. That actually might be better than the tree folk here. But I think the strongest cards in the pack are in black here, like Dunland Crebain, a cheap way to amass an Orc Army, so that is make a 0/0 Orc, put that many counters on it, or if you already have an Orc Army, just add 2 more counters to it. March from the Black Gate can really get rolling quickly with the Amass mechanic, where if you already have an Orc Army when you play this card, then you get to put another +1/+1 counter on it, and another counter on it when it attacks, and if you don't, it's like a 2 mana 1/1 that keeps getting bigger every time it attacks. So I really like the black Amass cards out of that pack. So I'm going to take something a little speculatively there towards a different color, since there weren't any like green-white food synergy cards in the pack, and we might keep going in a different direction. We now see King of the Oathbreakers, 4 mana for a 3/3 flyer. Whenever he or another spirit you control becomes the target of a spell, it phases out, and when he or another spirit phases in, we get a tapped 1/1 white spirit with flying. So you can't straight up kill this card with removal. It'll just phase out and then come back in your next turn. So that's kind of nice, and every time it does that, you get spirits. This seems pretty cool and a fun build around, good for a black-white tokens deck, which March from the Black Gate would also fit quite nicely into. So we'll take this next pretty fun, pretty sweet-looking rare. Now we could go black-white or green-white, so we probably want to take white cards pretty highly, if any of them look particularly good. This pack looks pretty weak and dirtily overall. I think Surrounded by Orcs is going to be a really fun build around. If you can amass a big enough Orc Army, you can try to mill somebody out. Or you can mill yourself if you have graveyard synergies. We could go for Slip on the Ring, which is good with Enter the Battlefield effects. Or we could go with Nimble Hobbit, which is a pretty good ring bearer, because on the first level of the Tempt the Ring mechanic, you make it so the ring bearer can't be blocked except by creatures with the same power or less. So the Nimble Hobbit wouldn't be able to get blocked by a 2/2 or a 3/3 or anything, so it's really hard to kill when it's the ring bearer. I'll just go for another Hobbit here out of white again, because it can go into white-black or white-green, and that pack didn't look particularly strong anyway. And here's a great Hobbit for the green-white deck, Meriadoc Brandybuck, 2 mana for a 2/2. Whenever 1 or more halflings you control attack a player, you get to create a food token. So this is a consistent way to spit more food tokens out for effects like Samwise Gamgee. It's also a legendary card, so it's a historic card we could pick up from our graveyard, put back into our hand. I like Meriadoc Brandybuck a lot here. We'll scoop them up. There's also Ent's Fury, which is solid removal. It's particularly good with a bunch of creatures with power 4 or greater, though. And I think the green-white deck is going to be focused on a lot of smaller creatures, since it's going to be mainly a lot of hobbits. So I think it's a little weaker for green-white than the other green decks, like green-black and green-red, that can spit out some really big creatures. Pack 1, pick 6. We could take Second Breakfast here as a combat trick that also gives us a food token. That would be fine. The Black Breath seems okay. It kind of feels like there's a lot of 1 toughness creatures in the format, so this can put in a little bit of work while tempting the ring. Legolas Counter of Kills is pretty good though, right? 4 mana for a 2/3 reach. Whenever you scry, if Legolas is tapped, you may untap it once per turn. And whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, put a +1/+1 counter on it. It seems pretty good. Kind of far away from green-blue, but I'm not that excited about Second Breakfast. I'll take Legolas here. Not particularly likely to get played, but we are not super committed to anything yet. Pack 1, pick 7, Hobbit's Sting. Probably pretty good removal in the green-white archetype specifically, where we're making a lot of food and playing a lot of cheap creatures. So again, with Meriadoc Brandybuck, with Samwise Gamgee, this is a fine removal spell. Also Improvised Club, which is a fine removal spell for red-black sacrifice. Breaking of the Fellowship's an okay red removal spell in general. That's pretty much all that's left in the pack, some decent removal spells. We'll take the Hobbit Sting. Pack 1, pick 8. Glorfindel, Dauntless Rescuer, another elf that wants us to scry a lot. They are a historic spell, even if we don't have much of a scry mechanic going. They're another historic spell for Samwise. Another legendary in general for other cards. I'll take a Glorfindel here over a Mirror Guardian, a Slip on the Ring, not too much. Now we could take that Tree Folk for a 5-drop. So if we push to green-white, which is looking the most likely right now, while we do have other options, we've already got 3 2-mana creatures, 1 3-mana creature. That's it. So I think the Human Knight is going to be a super filler 2-drop for a green-white deck. We probably want hobbits more than anything. Let's take the big dorky Tree Folk to top things off, potentially. Here's another Hobbit, Took Reaper. Decent value when it dies. 1 toughness is pretty bad, but tempting the ring is a decently valuable effect. I'll take a Took Reaper. That can make the Nimble Hobbit the Ring Bearer and make it really hard to block well. Torment of Gollum is pretty sweet, though. I don't think we want a second Tree Folk. Maybe the combat trick, the 1 mana +1/+3 flying thing is pretty big. Alright, East Farthing Farmer. Probably pretty nice for the green-white food deck, but we could also take Celeborn the Wise. I mean, the scry mechanic, the scry archetype is looking pretty open here. A Celeborn and a Glorfindel and a Legolas. I'm going to take the Celeborn. I feel like we can probably get cards like the East Farthing Farmer. That is a mouthful. East Farthing Farmer, we can probably get that a lot later. We're going to have much less opportunities to get the big, good scry elf. Now we've got a bow as a random combat trick, and another scry elf, the Lothlorien Lookout. This is kind of a lot of cards towards the green-blue scry deck, so we'll keep that in mind in the back of our head here. A second Glorfindel, that's a little awkward. What is this mythic rare? Sacrifice any number of lands, reveal the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of lands sacrificed, choose any number of artifacts and lands, put all non-land cards chosen this way onto the battlefield, then put all lands onto the battlefield tapped. So you sack a bunch of lands to make a bunch of artifacts, right? That is super weird. That is not a card for draft. There's another Hobbit Sting for us in green-white, or Peregrine Took to double up our food production and put another historic card in the deck. I think I'm going to take Peregrine Took over a second Glorfindel. Could also take Chance-Met Elves if I want to try to commit to green-blue scry. But I like the way our Hobbit deck is shaping up anyway. So we'll scoop that up. There's also a Smite the Deathless as a really good red removal spell, but not really anywhere near red. Pack 2, pick 2. Generous Ent is a phenomenal top-end card. 6 mana for a 5/7 reach and a food token is just so good at stabilizing. It's a massive blocker and a food token. Not going to be able to block any ring bearers because 5 power is a lot. Very unlikely your opponent's ring bearer is that big, but I think this card is just sweet. And no matter what, you can cycle it for a forest in the early game if you don't have enough mana for it. I like that at the top end a lot. Phial of Galadriel. If you would draw a card while you have no cards in hand, draw 2 instead. If you gain life while you have 5 or less, gain 5. That's interesting. Phial of Galadriel might be sweet in draft. Hold up. If you can dump your hand, you start drawing 2 every turn instead? Oh, I'm going to try this thing out. That seems legit. Because it also helps you dump your hand out because it's a mana rock. Maybe I'm overvaluing this a bit, but this definitely doesn't seem unplayable at least. It's at least a fine playable. Now we've got a Rosy Cotton of South Lane to go with all our food production. Every time we make food, we get to put +1/+1 counters on creatures. Works whenever we make little 1/1 humans or anything like that as well, so Rosy Cotton seems sweet. Generous Ent also seems sweet, and Arwen Undomiel might just come back because of how many of the Scry cards have been flying around. If Arwen comes back, I'm probably going to try to move to green-blue, but now we even have a mana rock for splashing in a third color, playing like 3 different colors here. That could be pretty fun. Frodo Baggins? That's like perfect, right? Little 2-mana halfling. The Ring Tempts You. As long as Frodo's the ring bearer, Frodo must be blocked, so Frodo can just snipe 1/1s. If our opponent has any 1/1 tokens, he's just going to keep killing them when he attacks, because that's the only thing they can block him with, and they have to block him. That's interesting. Frodo's cool enough. I'm just going to take Frodo. Probably supposed to take like Fog on the Barrow Downs here to actually have some removal, but I'm taking Frodo. It's going to be all legends here. This whole deck is going to be historic spells, so Samwise is going to be phenomenal. Shortcut to Mushrooms. When it enters the battlefield, the ring tempts you. At the beginning of your end step, if a permanent you controlled left the battlefield this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on a creature. This is fine. So every time you're sacrificing food tokens or losing a creature during combat or anything like that, you get a counter. That's pretty fine. I like Eagles in the North just because I like the big land cyclers. I like this combat trick because it's super cheap. This Brandywine Farmer spits out a lot of tokens cheap, which is cool. Actually, Protector of Gondor sweet too, but I'm going to take the Halfling here, get some more food production, and we get a pick 6 Samwise? We get double Samwise? Alright, we're the full-on food deck. We could have been the full-on Scry deck, but I'm on double Samwise, come on. All food all day, so now I'm actually really happy about Brandywine Farmer. Just makes a lot of food. I don't think there's anything left in this pack for us. Long List of the Ents is going to be pretty bad because like all of our stuff is halfling peasants. And you have to have a bunch of different creature types for that card to pop off. I guess I'll take this Spider. Because like almost everything in our deck is legendary, so 1 mana 1/1 Death Touch is always fine. And we can pretty consistently give another creature Death Touch every turn it attacks. Stew the Conies is great removal, happy to find that. Actually, we don't have a lot of high power creatures, so it's not exceptional removal, but we make a food every time we use it too, so it'll still be great for the archetype. Move my non-creatures out of the pile. Alright, deck is looking good. Deck is looking good. We're a couple packs away from when we would see if Arwen is going to come back around to see if that's a thing. But I'm on double Samwise and a Frodo. The flavor wins are there. Alright, pack 2, pick 9. Another Hobbit Sting is probably pretty good in this archetype. Not a massive fan of the Dwarf or the Elf here. We've also got an East Farthing Farmer to come back. I do kind of want to have mostly cheap cards to go with Phial of Galadriel. And this seems like could be really good with all our food, but Generous Ent is just so good, like so big. I'm actually going to take Generous Ents. If we draw a Generous Ent, wow, yeah, we really could have been Scry, but I'm going to fully go for the food deck and take another Generous Ent. If I draw, oh my god. I think I'll take a Pacifism over a third Generous Ent. You know what? No, all Generous Ent all day. You can't stop me. If we draw Generous Ent when we're trying to dump our hand with Phial of Galadriel and Generous Ent is just way too much mana, we can just force cycle and play it as the land for turn. We have not done that yet, so it could be fine. Alright, I'm going to cut this Scry nonsense. Horn of Gondor, that is cool. When it enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 human. 3 mana tap, create X 1/1 humans, where X is the number of humans you control. That is absurd in red-white in this format. Red-white is the humans archetype. We have very few humans right now. We're like all halflings. We have 0 humans. So it'll still make a lot of soldiers over time because it stacks up on its own. But it's not great up front, which means I think we don't really want it here. We could take another Mana Dork, or we could take just another massive food producer. I'm just going to go all in on food and take the Brandywine Farmer. I really want to try to make the food synergies pan out as well as possible. and see how many different triggered abilities and all kinds of nonsense you can get going. Errand Rider of Gondor is not a halfling, doesn't make any food, but still looks phenomenal for this deck. We have tons of legendary cards and a couple ways to tempt the ring, which would give us another legendary card. So a 3-mana 3/2 that draws you a card is a great way to get some stuff on the board while making sure you keep drawing cards and not running out. So big fan of that. Probably going to drop this other big tree folk since we have all the cycling tree folk instead. We've got 2 Hobbit Sting and a Stew the Conies for removal. A couple combat tricks. I don't think I need a 3rd Hobbit Sting this early or a Banish from Adoris. So probably hope to get one of these to come back and we can take one of them. I'm going to take a 3rd Brandywine Farmer. Don't know if I need all 3, but it seems fun. Ooh, Butterbur, Bree Innkeeper. So if I sack all my foods to whatever other effects that I have, I make sure I keep getting a food token during the end step. Sure. I've got a lot of 2-drops. I don't need another Took Reaper. Let's take a Butterbur, Bree Innkeeper. This is going to be a cool deck. Another Errand Rider of Gondor in this deck with so many legends. We could have had a second Arwen. I guess just green in general is super open. There's also Generous Ent still in here for my 4th copy. We'll take another Errand Rider of Gondor. All right. So these are all our non-creatures. This pack looks pretty bad. Take another Spider. Ooh, this has Flash. That's not bad. Instant speed. Kind of an expensive combat trick, but it stays forever. Westfold Rider is a cool 2-drop, but I like our 2-drops for our deck a little better, and I don't need Ent's Fury. Again, I don't have a lot of big creatures, and I have plenty of other cheap removal. I'm just going to take another Spider. I don't know about that one. Mushroom Watchdogs looks pretty legit here. Give us another way to eat food. Just make our 2-mana dog like a 4/4 Vigilance and then a 5/5 Vigilance over time, if we're lucky. Yeah, Watchdog seems cool. Could definitely have gone for like Wizard's Rocket style mana fixing, or Great Hall of the Citadel can also mana fix in these random blue legends, but we're going to have so much going on in just our 2-color food deck already. I don't need to splash around to get shenanigans going. Another Took Reaper versus a Banish from Adoris. It's a lot of mana for removal. I think I'm trying to just ride on these Hobbit Stings overall. Let's take a Took Reaper. Alright, 5-drop. Big dorky card. It does get bigger over time because you're likely to have tempted the ring at least twice by the time you play this, so that your ring bearer draws a card every turn to trigger the 2nd draw ability. But yeah, this is overall a bunch of nonsense. I do think I want that Mana Dork out of all of these, but I don't know if I'm going to end up playing this. Take the 1-mana combat trick. You know what? Revive the Shire actually might be okay. In this deck, yeah, I've already got like Pippin's Bravery and a bow for combat tricks. Return a random permanent from our grave to our hand, get a food token. I guess it's not random, we pick the permanent, but you know what I mean, some random dorky nonsense, because most of our permanents are random dorky nonsense. I have no idea how good this deck is going to be. I don't think I need an Eagles of the North, because I already have 3 6-drop creatures that land cycle. But yeah, I'm really interested to see how this deck plays out. Because this is a deck that you can't just like eyeball it and be like, yeah, this is going to be great. This really depends on how good the food synergies are when they all come together. Because they really came together here. We have like one of everything for the food deck. We've got a Rosie, we've got 2 Samwise, we've got a Butterbur. Many different cards that are interested in food. So we've got 50 cards in this deck. We have 4 Forest Cyclers. So I could cut like 2 lands here and still consistently have a good amount of mana, because we can treat the Generous Ents as 1-mana ways to draw a forest. We've got 4 of them, so I could like cut 2 forests. This does mean some of my mana in the early game is going to get choked up having to forest cycle some Generous Ents, but I think that's probably fine because it's not like we have a ton of 1-mana things to do. So we'll just forest cycle turn 1 anytime Generous Ent is in our opening hand. And ideally that's just when we get it out of the way, and then we just dump out 2 drops, 3 drops, go for the File of Galadriel for card draw, a bunch of stuff like that. So I'm actually just going to go for a super low curve here, because we have 4 Generous Ents, making sure we still have something to do endgame when we top deck these late. And again, the lower our mana curve, the easier it is to get our File of Galadriel to trigger, letting us draw 2 per turn. So I think I'm going to cut the Banish from Adoris, and I'm just not going to be able to cut Hobbit Stings or Stew the Conies. We're going to just need all that removal. We're at 25 creatures, 7 non-creatures, so if I cut 7 creatures here, we're still at 18. So I'm just going to cut 7 creatures. Call it a deck from there. So the spiders are kind of dorky, and now we have Generous Ents that we want to do every time they're in our opening hand at 1 mana. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 2-drops. That is a lot. But we also have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 3-drops, which is also a lot. Only 2 4-mana cards. The Celeborn, we're not really going to run any other elves. So 4-mana 3/3, when it attacks, scry 1 and put a +1/+1 counter on it, so it turns itself into a 4/4, then it turns itself into... This is probably still fine by itself, to just still run that Celeborn. I think I'll keep that in here, but I'm going to cut the Glorfindel because I've got very little scry. So let's cut these spiders. Let's cut the Glorfindel. Triple Brandywine Farmer seems like a bit much, so let's cut one of those. And then check how the curve looks now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 3-mana creatures. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 2-mana creatures. I like Pippin's Bravery in here with all our food production. That's going to be a real cheap way to get a lot of damage in. I don't love that we have to spend 3 mana on the Galadrim Bow as a combat trick, and then still 2 mana to equip it again later. So I might go really low on non-creature cards and cut the bow as well. And I think I shall. Let's cut a Galadrim Bow. And then we cut 2 more cards. I feel like my curve's low enough. I don't need a Pathfinder, even with File of Galadriel nonsense going on. So I'm going to cut that out. And then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7 2-mana cards, 6 3-mana cards, or 8 2-mana cards and 5 3-mana cards. Feel like I like an 8-5 split better, but I really, really like all of my 3-mana cards that are left. Peregrine Took with the food production, the Brandywine Farmers work really well with the Took and the Rosy Cottons. The Errand Riders are pretty consistently drawing a card, which is great. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, because I have 2 Samwise. 7 legendaries in here for the Errand Riders. Maybe I still cut 1 Errand Rider. I don't know. I could also cut like 1 Generous Ent, but I think it's hilarious running those over a couple lands. I really want to try that out. And they're more food token production in the late game, which is great. I'm just going to drop 1 Errand Rider of Gondor. It's probably wrong, but I want to try out as much food nonsense as possible, so I'm not going to cut like any of the food nonsense. I guess Took Reaper doesn't really do any food stuff, but I want to keep the curve really low too. And it makes foods with Meriadoc Brandybuck at least, since it's a hobbit. Yeah, whatever. This is a weird one. This is an interesting one. This is a cool one. I'm very into this overall. Yeah, let's call it a deck there. All right, here's a look at the final deck list for today. This is going to be a green-white food deck, and I'm really interested to see how this plays out because I have no idea how good this is going to be. We have a lot of food production as well as plenty of ways to get extra value off of them. The kind of headliner card here is Samwise Gamgee, 2 mana for a 2/2, and whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield under our control, we will be creating a food token, and if we sacrifice 3 of them, we can return a historic card from our graveyard to our hand, and we have a decent amount of those. Historic cards are any legendaries, artifacts, and sagas, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cards we can return with Samwise Gamgee. from our graveyard to our hand. So that should be a pretty good value ability, especially because even if we never use the secondary part, we're just going to get a bunch of extra food off of this, which is good for several of our other cards. Our Mushroom Watchdogs can eat some food to get bigger and attack quite well. Meriadoc Brandybuck can produce even more food for us to make it easier to get to our other sacrifice abilities. Our Nimble Hobbit can sacrifice food to like pie people in the face and tap them down, which is kind of hilarious. Rosy Cotton's going to keep putting +1/+1 counters on our creatures whenever we create food tokens or any other tokens. Peregrine Took will double up our food token production, giving us an additional food every time we make one, and Peregrine can draw us a lot of cards if we have a lot of food on board. We've got a couple Brandywine Farmers for some more food production, and at the top end of the curve we've got a Butterbur Bree Innkeeper to keep giving us a food every end step if we don't have any left. So lots of food production, a few great ways to sacrifice them like Peregrine Took, Samwise Gamgee, and Mushroom Watchdogs here. But even if we don't have any of those on board, we can just keep sacrificing food to gain 3 life to make it really hard for our opponent to kill us, because we'll have a lot of life gain going there. We also have a little bit of tempting the ring going on. We've got Frodo Baggins, who tempts the ring right when he hits the board. If you choose him as your ring bearer, then he is going to be only blockable by 1 power creatures or less, and he will have to be blocked. So he gets to start just eating all of your opponent's 1/1s if they just have 1/1s sitting on board. If they have their own 1/3s, then yeah, they can block them all day long. But if we can tempt the ring a few times with Frodo Baggins, a couple Took Reapers, stuff like that, then we might be able to have it to where Frodo can start drawing us cards and discarding our cards, and maybe even getting to the point where we force our opponents to sacrifice some creatures. So Frodo seems pretty decent in here with a lot of 1-power creatures to turn into ring bearers. We've also got Errand Rider of Gondor, which is great with a high legendary count, which we do have. That's going to be consistent value. And overall, we have a really low curve and a pretty low land count on 15 lands here. That's for multiple reasons. One reason is that we have Phial of Galadriel, so that if we're drawing a card when we have no cards in hand, we draw 2 instead. So that doubles up our card draw when we get to the point that we've dumped our whole hand on the board, which is super sweet. This also doubles our life gain if we're at 5 life or less. So if we let our opponent beat us down to less than 5 while we have a bunch of food sitting on board, we can then double up one of our food tokens, make it a 6 life gain when we're at 5 or less. So this seems like it's going to be pretty sweet in this deck if we can dump our hand super quickly. But the other reason we're playing a really low land count and a really low curve in general is that we have 4 copies of Generous Ent. So if we draw these in our opening hands, we can always do this for 1 mana to just pick up another forest to make sure we can keep playing the rest of our hand on curve. And if we top deck this in the late game, make sure that we don't flood out. We've got a 6 mana 5/7 reach that also makes a food token when it hits the board. So this is the top end of our deck, 4 copies of Generous Ent, and they seem like they're going to be pretty sweet in here as the top end card. Again, massive blocker, super hard to get through if your opponent doesn't have like a ring bearer, because it can block flyers, it can block anything on the ground as a 5/7, and it gives us a food as well, which is really great synergy. So that seems phenomenal. Outside of that, just a couple removal spells like Stew the Conies and some Hobbit Stings, a combat trick with Pippin's Bravery, and a Revive the Shire for some graveyard recursion value. And this is probably pretty sweet with Generous Ent as one of our best synergies. Then we get to cycle the Generous Ent early to turn it into a land in the early game, and have a 6 mana 5/7 in our grave if we want to pick up a big late game play with Revive the Shire. So deck looks really cool overall. It is super synergy driven, super combo heavy, a lot of little working pieces and intricate things that could pan out really well together. We could also draw them all at the wrong time and nothing happens. So I'm very interested to see how this one plays as we head into the gameplay. Here we are in game 1 against Reed Duke, a Hall of Famer and one of the best Magic players of all time. So if our deck loses this match, I wouldn't take that as a too massive sign that we're gonna have a horrible time from now on, because kind of running into the super fierce competition immediately. So this hand's a little bit slow because we don't have a white source till turn 3 when we play the Phial of Galadriel. but I think it's still worth the keep here. I could also start with Peregrine Took still. If I top deck a land, next turn I get to play Nimble Hobbit off of Phial of Galadriel. I think it's probably better to just play the Phial and force cycle the Generous Ent right now. So if Reed doesn't have any main deck artifact removal, then we get to drop a 3-drop and a 2-drop next turn still, like play Nimble Hobbit into Rosie or something. I guess that would require me top decking a white source. But I could play Peregrine Took and Nimble Hobbit no matter what I draw. Okay, didn't hit a white source, so we're on still mono green here, so we go Peregrine Took and Nimble Hobbit and pass. Because we want to play Peregrine Took before we play Rosie Cotton. Alright, and if we can dump our hand here and Reed can't blow up our Phial of Galadriel, we're going to start drawing 2 cards during our draw step for the rest of this game. And that could be really, really good. It's going to be a little hard to dump our hand without another white source, though, because we can't cast 2 white cards in one turn, and 5th green source has arrived, which is going to make it difficult to dump the whole hand. So that's a 4/3 and a Ring Bearer. If I play Rosie, I get 2 food tokens, so I get 2 counters on something. I can make Peregrine a 4/5. I can make Nimble Hobbit a 3/5. I don't think I want to stack up onto Peregrine and make that a bigger target than it already is. So I think we stack the counters onto the Nimble Hobbit and have a 3/5. We've got a Pippin's Bravery for +2/+2 or +4/+4. I don't think I'm sacking a food to the Hobbit here. Gonna look suspicious if I attack with Peregrine, but I think that's fine. Let's just send in for damage, decline, take everything on the crackback, because we have so many food tokens, we really don't have to worry about our life total much. Okay, I will go ahead and make that a 4/5 here. Clear the path. Pass the turn. Because I want to just dump my combat trick as quickly as possible. I want Phial of Galadriel to pop off, and we're going full control mode now, and putting a stop in our upkeep. So if Reed plays any creatures, we can Hobbit Sting whatever Reed plays before our draw step, and then the Phial lets us draw 2 cards, and that's where we just pop off from then on. Drawing 2 cards a turn from that point on. So yeah. Again, not like the greatest use of Pippin's Bravery in the universe, just killing this random 4/3, but just dumping our hand is super important with Phial of Galadriel. So Ranger's Firebrand. Cannot save Rosie Cotton, which is unfortunate. So Rosie's dead. And claim the Precious. Alright, which means I don't get to play this Hobbit Sting, so I don't get to pop off with Phial of Galadriel. Alright, yeah, that didn't work out super well for us. Draw for turn. Generous Ent is the draw. That's a great one. Slam that down and make 2 food tokens. Can draw a card off Peregrine Took as well if I want to. Depends on what Reed plays. I don't need to draw a card right now. And I might not want to because I want to have this stop on my upkeep, so if Reed just plays a creature, then I just blow it up with Hobbit Sting and draw 2, rather than just 1 off Peregrine Took and 1 off of my draw step. Alright, Reed plays a 1/1. This is so greedy, but whatever. I'd like to draw 2 cards. I have entered the greed zone. Sack it to deal 4 damage to Peregrine Took or something? Nope. Alright, let's draw 2. Beautiful. We hit the plains, which means I'm going to have an empty hand again. I can draw 2 off Peregrine Took. Or wait till my draw step. I guess it depends what happens during this combat. Generous Ent's gonna die? Sure. If I draw land, I don't get to play the land and I don't get to have an empty hand, so I'm just gonna pass here. Because if I draw like a land and a white spell, it's gonna be really bad. Because I can't play either right now, and my hand's just going to be loaded with stuff I can't dump out with the Phial of Galadriel. Okay. Draw my 2. We get a Butterbur and an Errand Rider. I can play both of these. Butterbur's not super good on this board. Errand Rider's great. Let's run that out immediately. Oh, I guess if I did Butterbur and then Errand Rider, I would have drawn 2. No, this thing's insane. I need to be playing around this a little more. Yeah, I think Brandywine Farmer's better than Butterbur right now. I've got draw 2 off of Peregrine Took. I'm just gonna draw my whole deck and not be able to kill Reed. Alright, Erebor Flamesmith. I'm gonna accidentally mill myself. I feel like that is looking like the most likely outcome of this game right now. I've got a few ways to get Finishery. I can just keep playing Generous Sense and keep reanimating Generous Sense with Samwise. I have 2 copies of Samwise to pick up Generous Sense from my grave. Yeah. Statistically speaking, we probably get to a point where I can kind of want to be the Ring Bearer. Or I kind of want to get a Ring Bearer. I guess the Orc Army makes it not matter too much. Yeah, sure, fine. Do that. Yeah, I've got 2 more Generous Scents. Oh no, I have 1 more Generous Scent in the deck and several ways to reanimate them. Took Reaper. Okay. Reaper. Butterbur. Draw 2. Play a land. There's a Samwise. Samwise picks up one of those cards, which is huge. A thing. I forgot what it's called, but a thingy thing. A Generous Ent. Reed's gonna pass the turn. Alright, drop Samwise, pick up Generous Ent and cast that, I think is what I want to do. Oh, I only pick up historic cards. Okay. Forgot about that. So my only recursion for Generous Ents is that 1 spell. Still think Rosie's better than drawing a card blind. Drawing a Rosie feels great. I want to load up here. Probably double Took Reaper. Yeah. Just double Took Reaper. Good grief, I have 6 tokens exactly, so I can Butterbur in the end step as well if I sack them all to draw 2. Sure. Land. Land. Cool. Send in some Took Reapers. This will be my first Ring Tempt. I guess I put it on Rosie for now, since Rosie's a 1/1. Hardest one to block. Super big Took Reaper. Since we got 2 food tokens from Butterbur in the end step. This is wild. Yeah, Reed is over it. Reed is so over it. This is absurd. Alright. I don't know what I was doing there, but there were food. There were food tokens involved everywhere. I guess there was food. I'm very bad at the English language, but it doesn't matter because our deck was very good, so I guess we're starting off 1-0, and I'm just gonna keep flinging food tokens around everywhere, and whatever triggers happens, and hopefully it's more big stuff like that as we head into game 2. Alright, here we are for game 2. We have that file of Galadriel again, which was incredible. This time, gonna play out a bit differently though. We've got a turn to Frodo, which is interesting. We have 4 lands already, so I might not even forced cycle the Generous Ents. So the file might not immediately draw us cards, because It's going to take a while to get the Generous Ent out of our hand, whether it's a forest or a Generous Ent, because even if it's a forest, we have to wait till turn 5 to play 5 lands. So I think I'm just keeping it for now. Oh yeah, that's my 6th mana. We have the Phial of Galadriel as a mana rock, and we have 5 lands, so no forest cycle of the Generous Ent this game. Now we're just going to get all the upsides of playing a 15 land deck without any of the downsides. Not going to have to forest cycle anything. Oh, don't kill Frodo. Gollum is big enough to kill Frodo. That's spooky. And that makes sense. That feels in lore. I'm not super familiar with the lore. I've read The Hobbit, never read The Lord of the Rings, and never watched any of either of the movies. So I just know pop culture general references, and then I know all about The Hobbit, but most of these references are pretty exclusive to The Lord of the Rings. Like in The Hobbit, the ring really never did anything evil with Bilbo. That just felt like a total 180 in The Lord of the Rings. Apparently the ring is like tempting people and it's super evil and stuff, and when I read The Hobbit it was kind of just like, it's just a cool invisible ring, you're good, you got this. It's fine. Okay, well that's aggressive. 3 power creature on turn 2, 3 power creature turn 3. I don't see a huge reason to poke them for 1, but it's not like I'm going to block with Frodo. I guess I could double block Frodo and a 1/1 against the 3/2 and they only kill one of the cards. That might be worth it. If I play Phial here, if I play Phial, I'm not blocking, period. I think I play the Farmer. Because even if I play Phial now, I don't get to play Generous Ent next turn. So let's get better blocks on board. I think I just need to eat some food to survive. Oh god, yeah, there's Ugluk of the White Hand, which gets bigger whenever their creatures die. If it's an Orc or a Goblin, it gets 2 +1/+1 counters. Very bad. Very, very bad. This is a lot of damage real quick. I guess I could do this for now. Ugluk turns into a 4/4. Play a Phial and revive the Shire next turn? Sure. Uses all 5 of my mana. Then we'll have 2 food tokens on board to try to gain some life, stay in the game, or 3 food tokens, because we get one when the Brandywine Farmer dies as well. Alright, they tempt the ring, put it on Ugluk. So now they get to draw a card, discard a card every turn. Drawn into a nimble Hobbit, so I can double block the Uruk-hai Berserker with 2 1/3s instead of just picking something up from my grave this turn, which I think is the play. I feel like this Phial of Galadriel is going to play really nicely in this game, because if they get me down to 5 but don't quite kill me, then all of a sudden every food is a potential gain 6. I can only do it once, because as soon as the first food resolves and I gain 6, all of the other foods turn into just gain 3. But if they are in positions where they can only hit me down to like 5 life but not quite kill me, then I could maybe get that amount of value on multiple foods over time. Alright. Ugluk's gonna be massive. It's gonna be a 6/6 now. It's gonna be bad. But I gotta clear out some creatures, if I can. They also have the Malhur Uruk-hai Captain. So every time they put counters on their orcs or goblins, they get 1 more. So I actually get 3 counters on Ugluk. They're just gonna club me in the face. Alright, well, I'm gonna gain 6 off of my food tokens then. Not if I cast Generous Ent right now. If I cast Generous Ent right now, I don't have the mana up to use any food, which feels spooky at 3 life against a red deck. So let's just fully go chump mode, play Revive the Shire, and hold up the mana to sack 2 foods. Well, I could also just not play Revive the Shire. Just play nothing here. That way if they ever kill my Ent, I can reanimate that. I think I kind of have to Revive the Shire here. think I need to be mana efficient. And this is another chump blocker and a bunch more food later. Which is big. Alright. So we're just on chump block gain 6 next turn. Turn after that, we can play a Brandywine Farmer and eat some food. They get to keep drawing a card, discarding a card, setting up their draws. I am at 1. Dunlin Crebain, 1/1 flyer. Yeah, that's bad. Amass Orcs 2, which means they amass Orcs 3. Go to 7. And go to 10. With the extra mana. Hold up the mana to sack a food, or do I just play my 5/7 reach? Make it so they only attack with Ugluk. Feels like they probably don't have another burn spell. I'm gonna risk it here and drop the Generous Ents to keep their other stuff off me. If they play the removal spell that makes me lose 2 life here, I get to chump block Ugluk and take... Oh no! Oh my god, am I dead? I might be dead. Oh my god, that gets to steal my Generous Ents? Jesus Christ. Yeah, I'm super dead. They don't even need another removal spell. Okay, well... Red-black Orcs really popped off here. They curved out super aggressively and still all gas. Lash of the Balrog now. Alright. That game played out significantly worse. We will be 1-1 as we head into Game 3. Here we are for Game 3 with a mono white hand and all green spells. That is a fast mulligan. That is a very, very bad draw. Well... Now we have 5 forests and 2 green-white cards. Well, when it's better than our last hand, but not by a lot. I don't think I'm gonna mulligan down to 5. I get rid of a forest and just cycle all these Generous Ents and pull all the forests out of our deck. Oh my god. Top deck the plains immediately. Let's go. We're definitely forest cycling a Generous Ent immediately. Red-black again. Peregrine Took, turn 3. It's going to be fun. Peregrine Took into Butterbur is going to be great. Get 2 food token. 2 food tokens on the board in my end step if I don't control one. Playing against Grixis, red, black, and blue. Those overlap with amassing a large orc army. They also overlap with a lot of cards that care about running a lot of instants and sorceries, so should be interesting to see. Frodo is sweet on this board state. I think I forgot Frodo's ability a lot of the time here, but now I remember Frodo has to be blocked when he's my ring bearer, so they have to block with their 1/1 flyer here. I think I missed a lot of good attacks with Frodo earlier. But this is the early access event. This is the first time everyone in the world is playing this set. So, makes sense. Makes sense that I'm missing a lot of stuff. And I didn't know Frodo tempts the ring when we play more legendaries. Oh my god, that's so good. Oh my god. Yeah, that's actually sweet. So we could try to tempt the ring all the way up to like level 4 because we have our 3rd legend in hand already. get it to where they have to block with any creatures with 1 power less, and those creatures get sacrificed at the end of combat, even if they have like really high toughness. That is sick. Frodo popping off this game. Snarling Warg, 4 mana, 4/4 menace. That is big and scary. And that is going to damage me quite a bit. Oop, there's the planes. Make it so Frodo kills their blockers as well. And get 2 food tokens in our end step. Draw a card, discard a card. Took Reaper. I'm going to play a Brandywine Farmer next turn. If I draw land, I can play Brandywine plus Took Reaper, which is pretty cool. So I guess I could discard a Generous Ent. Yeah, sure. So I maybe get to play 2 spells. Like, I could play Brandywine Farmer and then use Peregrine Took to draw a card, sacking all 3 food. And try to hit my next land off that and use that land to play the Took Reaper, and then in my end step I'll have 0 food tokens on board, which means that Butterbur will trigger, giving me 2 more food. I probably need to make sure my combo still pops off. If they have any instant speed Amass, this is a 3/3 and kills my Took. Or my Butterbur. I don't think I take that risk. Uh-oh. Mirkwood Bats can be very explosive. When they create or sacrifice a token, we lose a life. We do not have another legendary to get Frodo Baggins any bigger. Could attack with Butterbur. I guess this is going to make 2 food when it comes into play because of Took, so we're not going to get the Butterbur tokens in the end step. There's too much stuff to do. Let's draw the card here. See what we find. Another land. Pretty good. That means we cast a Generous Ent next turn for 2 more food. Do I play a Took Reaper now, or do I sack this food and get 2 more? Took Reaper blocks perfectly reasonably. I think I can play it here. Sure, we'll do that. Discard a plains. This way I can block the army with a Took Reaper, and whatever trick they were trying to use, they can just cast it and kill my Took Reaper, but then I get to tempt the ring again, get it to level 4 on Frodo, which is real strong. Relentless Rohirrim, they get to tempt the ring themselves, put it onto their Mirkwood Bats. And now it's extra hard to block that. Can't block it with a Generous Ent, because the Ent's going to be too big. They only have 1 mana left this turn now, which is good for us. So just take the 2. Feels good. Drop our Generous Ent. We have 3 food on board for Peregrine Took. I can sack all 3, draw a card, get 2 more from Butterbur post-combat. Well, at the end step of our turn. Post-turn entirely. So let's do that. Guess I get to poke for 1 with Frodo again. They can't do anything about it. Draw a card, discarding a plains. Get another Generous Ent? Sure. Oop. Seems good to me. This is just nonsense. We are hunting and gathering all over the place here. We're farming, we're making cookies. Got a whole bakery going down. Our opponent has like An entire orc army and a spooky warg coming in hot. There's gigantic swarms of bats coming at us. And we're just cooking. We're just eating some delicious pancakes and beer, and this format is hilarious flavorfully. I absolutely love it. Oh god, no. Okay. I guess that only kills our farmer and our Took Reaper, at least for now. Wait, what are they doing? What is waiting? Oh, the Ring Tempt. Okay, that wasn't horrible. Well, Frodo hits them harder now. Frodo hits them for 4 damage every turn. Let's go, Frodo. Oh no. Okay, this is now indeed terrible. Forgot they could do this now. Alright. Not good. 6, 7, 8 damage this way? Good god. We want to do like that, but then I don't have a Butterbur anymore, which is pretty sad. Take 6 on board. Feels like our best bet. Because I can't block the Mirkwood Bats, and I can only block the Warg with a double block. I guess if that's the case, I might as well like double block the Warg instead of the 4/3. But it depends on what their last card in hand is here. It could be bad for us. They get to kill our Took, though. No, yeah, blocking this way, we get to keep the Peregrine Took and the Generous Ent if they don't have something, which is important. Let's do this. What do they have? What is the last card in hand? Orcish Medicine. Okay. Well, we don't die, but we take another damage from the bats, and the Rohirrim doesn't die. Okay. Oh no, they... Oh, wow, that's horrible. They saved their Orc Army. I forgot that's a mass, not just make a 1/1. So the Orc Army gets bigger. Yep. That was not good. We've got a Meriadoc Brandybuck. They're at 14. Take 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. They do not die on the crackback. But if I get enough food... If I play Meriadoc, I get 2 more food. That's a gain 9, go to 15. Take 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. They have to top deck something to kill us. You know what? This is almost definitely the wrong play, but I'm going to go for it because it's the funnest. We are going to eat food all over. Brandywine Farmer. No thanks. I'm just going to spend 6 mana on eating food. I don't have 6 mana. Shoot. I should have kept the Brandywine Farmer. Okay, I can eat 2 food. I can go to 12. And I have a chump blocker. Alright, I probably should have kept Brandywine Farmer. Then I miscounted. Probably would have been better to have 2 chump blockers and eat 1 food than 1 chump blocker and eat 2. Either way, they have to top deck something to kill us. But I think it would be a little more likely to survive with the 2 blockers, 1 food plan. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is me at 6. This is me at 9. This is me at 12. Did they top deck something? That's the question. Let's see. Grima Wormtongue. Makes it so we can't gain life, but we could have sacked the food in response to that, and they are dead on board. Let's go. Alright. I was super bad at math and absolutely miscounted, but here they are now dead. And that's going to be 2 and 1 as we head into game number 4. Here we are for game 4. Rosy Cotton's pretty bad as the only creature in the hand, but Phial of Galadriel has just been a ridiculous card. So I'm still going to keep it and try to dump out the hand, hopefully draw another cheap creature before we play Rosy Cotton. Get one of our 2-drops. Fingers crossed. We've got the mana for any of them. Come on, top deck. Nice. Alright, took Reaper, good enough. We'll drop that out so that when we play Rosy Cotton, we actually get +1/+1 counter on the board, since she only puts counters on other creatures. She can't put counters on herself. Send in the March from the Black Gate. I guess I could trade here so they don't keep amassing more. But then they might follow this up with like a Dunland Crebain or something. If they do, though, then this thing's going to turn into a 5/5 when it attacks next turn, so getting it out of the way still feels fine, but I'm going to save the Took Reaper, so I have the option of playing Rosy Cotton instead of Phial of Galadriel, which I might do. Denethor Ruling Steward. If one of their creatures dies, they get a 1/1. Oh, so they really wanted the trade. They get a 1/1 in replacement, and then obviously they're going to amass another army at some point. Okay. I think I want to drop down the Rosy Cotton here. If I play Phial of Galadriel, I'm just holding up +2/+2 Pippin's Bravery, which isn't great. I think I can play Phial next turn. And play a Hobbit Sting after a Phial. Something like that. I should just let them beat in for a lot of damage early and then start eating food later. So if we just keep everything on board, it's just going to keep getting better and better for us, our board state. Things start popping off. Take 5, go to 13. I guess the problem is it costs mana to eat food, so if I just keep taking damage here and then like play a Phial and a Hobbit Sting, I don't have the mana up to eat any food next turn either, and I'm down to 13 right now. Dúnedain Blade. 1 to equip a human, so 1 mana to put it on Denethor, making Denethor a 4/5? Spooky. That's a large Denethor. Okay, so Hobbit Sting is not enough damage to kill Denethor, but it is enough damage to kill the Orc Army. And I could cast Pippin's Bravery or eat a food instead. Butterbur doesn't really do anything if I play Butterbur right now. I just have a 3/3. Doesn't even trigger. So I'm going to get the Phial out of the way so we could play Generous Ent sooner and maybe dump our hand sooner. I'm going to be fully on the defensive here. Pippin's Bravery could be +4/+4 to make Took Reaper like a 6 toughness, 7 power. So we could go... I'll probably go for Pippin's Bravery here. And try to Hobbit Sting the Took Reaper later. Hobbit Sting in response. Had 1 more mana, I could Hobbit Sting in response and ruin their Hobbit Sting, and that would have been so good. Sadness on the stack absolutely resolves. Still get the block off at least. Okay, so I have 5 mana up next turn if I don't draw land. If I cycle Generous Ent, then I have the 6 mana to play a Butterbur and a Hobbit Sting, but I only have 3 cards for the Hobbit Sting, so it doesn't kill anything anyway, so I think I just hold on to the Generous Ent so I can actually play a massive blocker if I do hit a land, and I did not hit a land. Again, not hitting a land was bad here, but even if I cycled Generous Ent, then I top deck this, I'd just be playing a Butterbur and a Took Reaper. And if I cycled Generous Ent and then didn't hit exactly a 2-mana creature, I would still be playing Butterbur and nothing else. I guess I could eat the food if I'd went that way. Yeah, this stuff is just not big enough. Drop a Took Reaper. And I guess pass. Could have doubled up like Butterbur plus Hobbit Sting into killing something. But I could double up Took Reaper plus Hobbit Sting as a kill still. Save Butterbur for later. Alright, come on, no more instants. Please run out of interaction at some point. I am begging you. They did not run out of interaction. Wait, maybe they did? They have something instant speed. It might be a land cycle or something, though. Okay, we killed Denethor. Now they've got a 4/5. They can sack something to draw a card, make a food. Most importantly, that's big enough to kill us in one attack. So now they have 2 creatures big enough to kill us in one swing. We need to top deck the land for Generous Ent or we're dead. Great. Are we like dead here, or is this just very bad? We might just be dead. We revive the Shire and have 3 mana up. Again, I just couldn't afford to force cycle this Generous Ent because nothing else in our deck's big enough to block these things. I guess our only line this game was to maybe try to Hobbit Sting this army much earlier. That was our only thing we could have done. I always expect these decks to run a ton of like Amass, but they only had March from the Blackgate. So if we managed to kill this Orc Army earlier, they played 0 other cards to amass an army. So this just would have stopped entirely. So I guess that was like our one bet here. I could probably barely survive here, but it is far too late to make a comeback. So we'll just give them the W in the end. Yeah, I think that's really about all there is to it. I don't think any of the not cycling Generous Ent lines were wrong, because by the time we were getting to that 5th mana where we could cycle it for the 6th, it's like, this is the only card in our deck big enough to stop these kind of things. So if I just cycle it away, then I have a 6th land to play a 3/3 and gain 3 life, which doesn't put us anywhere near a lead. And I guess it gets closer to File of Galadriel drawing us cards, but that is a cruel joke, Arena. A cruel joke. We are 2-2, heading into game 5. All right, here we are in game number 5 with a pretty sweet opening hand. We're unfortunately on the draw again, so our opponent could just aggro us out. But this deck has a lot of 2/3 mana creatures to trade off early. Speaking of 2/3 mana creatures to trade off early, Easterling Vanguard is a phenomenal one. Ooh, Samwise. Now I'm going to start with Samwise so that every time I play any creatures, I'm getting more food. Plus, if they don't kill Samwise, I can play the Errand Rider next turn, draw a card, and get a food. We are definitely not trading Samwise off, especially when this Vanguard has such a good death trigger, amassing some orcs. We're going to play a Dunland Kerbane here, 1/1 flyer, 2/2 Orc Army, and this curve out is massive. 2 cards, and I am already far behind on board. Let's drop our Errand Rider of Gondor. Draw a card, and we've got a 3/2 to trade into the Orc Army, probably. Alright, if they don't attack with the Orc Army, don't think I have a good trade. Block the Vanguard, the army becomes a 3/3, and then I don't have a 3-power creature to block it with. There's a Lembas. Scry 1, draw a card, and they've got some food to eat. Looks delicious. Scry to the bottom, draw a card. They are blue, black, and red, all 3 of the Amass colors. Love that we've got a Hobbit Sting here. I'm probably going to play... Oh wow, we've drawn a 5th land. This might be another game since I've drawn 5 lands. I'm just going to sit here with a Generous Ent in hand all game, because don't think I force cycle a Generous Ent when I have 5 mana. Anyways, I could play Took Reaper and hold up Hobbit Sting. Feels pretty good. Could offer the Errand Rider trade. I don't think it's exceptional on attacks, though. I guess if I play a Nimble Hobbit, then I have a 1/3 to block the Vanguard, which is really good too. So then just hold up Hobbit Sting for later. Next turn I can play Brandywine Farmer, hold up Hobbit Sting, and the Sting should be big enough to kill like anything in the universe. And this way I've got a 1/3 on their 2/1 and a 2/1 on their 2/2. So they really just don't have attacks here. Unless they play some removal or something like that. Plus I'm just loading up food tokens. Yeah, Hobbit Sting is 7 damage right now. Pretty big for 2 mana. There's a Ranger's Firebrand for Samwise Gamgee. Very sad. No more food token production. Well, I mean, I still get to play a Brandywine Farmer, but I don't get like extra food production anymore. Yeah, sure. Oh wait, no. They'll put the 1/3 there and make them use a combat trick or something. Alright. Do they have the -1/-1 to everybody or something? Is that what's going on? Kill the Took Reaper and the Hobbit now? No, they are going to pick up the Easterling Vanguard from the grave to replay it. Make their Orc Army a Ring Bearer. Cool. Can play a Brandywine Farmer and hold up a Hobbit Sting, or a Meriadoc Brandybuck, hold up a Hobbit Sting. Don't love my attacks, they just trade into Vanguard. Let's just make the most of our mana then. Play the Brandywine Farmer. Hold up a Hobbit Sting. I think I might. I'm getting to the point where it's pretty likely that I cast it. Like, I'm not going to attack to trigger Brandybuck anyway right now, so I think it's okay to not play Brandybuck currently. To hold up the Sting. Morgul Knife Wound. Well, we're going to have to sacrifice that. It's not going to be worth paying 2 life every turn. Plus, it is now too small to trade into their Orc Army. Alright, I guess I can just get a free chump block here at least. I probably should have stung the army before they got their Ring Bearer trigger to draw a card and discard a card. Is something that'll be important to learn as the format progresses. Kill Ring Bearers pre-combat so they don't draw extra cards. Alright, that all works out perfectly fine so far. Lobelia Sackville Baggins. Exile a creature put into there from the battlefield this turn, get X treasures. So they get 3 treasures? Sure. Okay, that's not horrible. She's got Menace though, but she's just a 2/3. Alright, I don't think they need the treasures. They have 1 card in their hand. Feels unlikely they need the extra mana. But maybe it's a big X mana spell or something that'll blow me up. It's Bilbo! When Bilbo enters or leaves the battlefield, the ring tempts you. When it deals combat damage to player, create a treasure. Okay, that's not bad. We have a 1/3 that can block Bilbo all day long, even if they make Bilbo the ring bearer. Alright, let's sting the army. Now they're out of cards. Ooh, Phial of Galadriel? That's big stuff. That's big, huge, game-changing stuff as soon as I drop this Generous Ent down, which will be next turn. I guess I could cycle it and play it as a forest just to start drawing 2 immediately, but 5/7 still looks pretty good on the board. Oh, they're at the point where they make me sack creatures that I block with. Okay, that's actually pretty bad. That means Bilbo does matter a good amount. I mean, they just get treasure tokens, which we already established don't really matter right now. Okay. But I do need to wait till I have 3 1-power creatures to kill Bilbo on blocks. And I can't just bounce off Bilbo because they're at level 3. Gandalf. Oh, snap. When they cast their next instant or sorcery, they can tap or untap something. They can copy the instant or sorcery. They can deal 3 to me, or they can put Gandalf back. Interesting. If they get extra damage and they copy their next instant or sorceries, like the really big one. Peregrine Took. Huge card draw engine. Huge one. That might be worth getting goofy with it and cycling the Generous Ascent. I think it is. Let's go for it. So that I have no cards in hand. When I use this, draw Stew the Conies, which I have the mana for, but I don't have any creatures big enough for this to do much. I guess I could kill Bilbo, but then they get to just make something else the Ring Bearer anyway. We'll see. It's an instant. We'll do it during our opponent's turn, based on what happens. Yeah, I mean, if I kill Bilbo, then they start making us lose 3 more life every turn, because they just put it on the flyer. I feel like I don't kill Bilbo. Not sure if I block either. If I block, I get 2 more food from the Brandywine Farmer. With Peregrine Took on board, which means I could draw another card immediately. But I can already stew the Conies for 2 food. But I don't want to stew the Conies till I can kill, like, Gandalf or something. Let's just take 2 damage. Lembas, scry 1, draw a card again. Drawn to another Lembas. Nice. I guess the more you have, the more consistent, because they keep getting shuffled back in. Just keep looping through the Lembases. The Lembi? The Lembasi? No idea. They've got a lot of treasure tokens to go with them as well, to make it easy to play them and still do other stuff. Butterbur. Butterbur's very interesting. Butterbur's still not big enough to kill Gandalf, which is the sad part. But now I can Butterbur, I can stew Lobelia. Because I don't want to stew Bilbo, or they get level 4 of the ring. But I do want to stew to create 2 food tokens for Peregrine, so I can sack all 3 and draw 2, and then use Butterbur in the end step to make 2 more food. So Butterbur, I guess we kill... Maybe we kill the flyer over Lobelia. Yeah, I've got enough creatures. We'll kill the flyer. That's 2 food tokens. We draw 2, and then get 2 more food tokens in our end step. Get a Brandywine Farmer and a Forest for next turn. Still don't really attack into their 3/4 and 2/3 and everything. Could start having Nimble Hobbit just keep tapping down Gandalf and attacking with all our 3 toughness creatures. That'd be reasonable. Bilbo and Lobelia are coming in. Let's see what kind of nonsense they're planning here. Could be like a double combat trick thanks to Gandalf. Just block with our 2 unimportant creatures. Cool. Get 2 more food. Get that ring bearer onto a nimble hobbit. Oh, I see. They have the return spell to pick up Lobelia and another card with Gandalf if they want. They're just going to deal 3. Alright, we might just eat all of our food instead of drawing cards here to make it like impossible for our opponent to race us. Because we get 2 more food every end step, so we get 6 life every end step. And have to deal 6 damage a turn to compete. Minimum, especially because Brandy Book. Nimble Hobbit Brandy Book means we attack and make 2 food every turn because they have nothing small enough to block the Nimble Hobbit. I'm just gonna eat all my food. I've decided. It's just food time. We'll have 6 food. I don't have 12 mana, but I can eat 4, gain a boatload of life, and just make a bunch more food. If I play Brandywine Farmer, I still have exactly enough to eat 6 food tokens. Sure, whatever. Nimble Hobbit Meriadoc Brandy Book means 2 more food, then Butterburn the end step is 2 more food after that. And it's just absolutely ludicrous. Alright. Let's just see if our opponent can kill us through us being absolutely gluttonous. We're like that one ghost in Luigi's Mansion. If I have 5 or less, I gain twice. So I gain twice as well right now. So I could just go... To make sure that I have 0 food left, I go draw a card, eat a food, and then get 2 food. Draw a card, draw a card. Eat a food. Go to 11. Eat a food, go to 14. Is this game ever going to end? Because they have a, like, Lembus loop going on as well. Multiple Lembuses. We're going to be at 1,000,000 life apiece. This is dumb. This is Magic the Gathering featuring Lord of the Rings. Oh. My god. I guess we could mill out. That could be how we lose, because they can't mill out with Lembus in their deck. So we have to pop off somehow, eventually. I could Samwise back my Samwise, which is very funny. Uh-oh, they got a gigantic axe off the top. Gandalf swinging an axe at our face. That's not very flavorful. That is terrifying. Oh dear. That's 4 toughness, and then Samwise just picks up Butterbur. Seems good. So Gandalf's gone. They've got 1,000,000 treasure. They've got an axe to throw on Lobelia now. But we've got like infinite food. So, oh my god, infinite food with the watchdogs! Oh my god, okay. Yeah, we're popping off. We're gonna be fine. Let's pick up a Butterbur. And plan on having 0 food left every turn in our end step. Drop the Butterbur. Get 2 food from Samwise. Drop a Watchdogs. Get 2 food from Samwise. 4 mana up means I eat 2 food naturally for life gain. Just to be safe, I think. And eat the rest to the watchdogs, I guess? No, I mean, I don't think I need to... I'm gonna pick up another Samwise. How about that? So we've got a backup Samwise in hand. 1, 2, 3, 4 mana left, so I could eat 2 food, gain 6, and then replace the food in the end step. I don't need to put any counters on watchdogs till next turn when they're actually attacking anyway. Oh, and I forgot I'm going to get 2 food from the Nimble Hobbit, so... The unblockable Nimble Hobbit. So I can still put 2 counters on the watchdogs and then get 2 food from Butterbur. Trying to tinker with a gigantic Rube Goldberg machine, and I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm entering the Dominoes World Championship, and I've just like thrown dominoes all over the floor of my living room, just been like, look how they all work together. They all flop around, it's beautiful. I know what I'm doing, I swear. Alright, cool. Land, generous, and get 2 food. Ooh. Let's just watchdogs it up at this point. Oh my god. The goodest of dogs. We've got like a 200-pound wiener dog over here. I guess they could block with Grima, but Grima can't kill the Nimble Hobbit anyways, so might as well get my my food. Alright, the goodest boys get in for 10. And now they're going to be 12 12s, and then we're going to get 2 food in the end step. We pass the turn. Bilbo's coming in hot, drawing a card, discarding a card, digging for some answers. We are down to 11. Oh, they did hit level 4 of the Ring Bearer. I was not paying attention to when that happened. So we have been taking some extra damage. Now Metal Door, they get to flicker their stuff when it hits me. Cool. I'm gonna gain some life here. I'm a little spooked. Oh, I can't gain life when Grima Wormtongue's on board. Oh my god. Oh no. Oh, we might die to that. The bonus text matters a lot. Oh, Rosie Cotton? Speaking of cards that matter a lot. So I take 4 damage from Bilbo if I don't chump Bilbo, so I'm gonna have to chump Bilbo with my Nimble Hobbit, I think. Oh, Lord. Oh, I've got Generous Ent to block their flyer. Okay, we're not in that bad of a situation. I could chump block with Rosie, and then I'll just make enough food to keep bringing Rosie back with Samwise and replaying Rosie. Yeah, that's the plan. Chump block Bilbo with Rosie, and we have Generous Ent to block Metal Door. So what do we attack with? Probably, like, make Meriadoc really big. Because we don't want to make Nimble Hobbit any bigger. We want it to be sneaking in. At least we don't want them to be able to block it with any of their bigger creatures. I guess it'll always have more toughness than power, so it really doesn't matter. Okay, well, I can't gain life. I can block Bilbo with Rosie. Can make 2 more food when I attack to make Myriodoc like 8 power. 2 more food in the end step. Watchdogs is already big enough, they kind of have to just trump it. So I don't know if I even sack to the Watchdogs. I guess there's nothing else to sack it to unless I want to draw more cards right now. I guess that's fine. Try to dig for like a Hobbit Sting or something. Draw another card, sure. Another Generous Ent. Okay, that's interesting. Now I can play that to hold one up on blocks. That does seem good. This deck is way too involved. They could kill Myriodoc, but then I Samwise Myriodoc back to hand fairly easily. I guess if I'm attacking with Myriodoc, I'm already attacking with a halfling, so I should save the Hobbit back so that I have 2 1-power creatures to chump Bilbo. Six toughness if they double block like that, so let's make that 6 power and buff Myriodoc again. Chump takes 6, fair enough. Sack one of these to Grima to make us lose a life, and they get to Amass Orcs too. Next turn, maybe I was supposed to do this by now, but next turn I think I'll definitely just flunge, send in the whole team, and hope for the best. Get 5 million food tokens. Let's just load everybody up at this point. Except our 1-power creatures, we want to leave those as 1 power. Draw a card. Draw a card. Food for the Watchdogs. To get the Butterbur trigger to put 2 more counters on the board. Counter there, counter there. Next turn is the super lethal attack, so if I survive this turn, then we are golden. So just chump block Bilbo with whatever, so that we don't take the Bilbo life loss from the ring. Okay, they draw a card, discard a card. Chump. All right. That probably should have been easier, probably should have ended sooner, but I feel like I'm just balancing a bunch of plates, and I've never worked in the kitchen before. Like, I have no idea. This is wild. This archetype is fun, but it is way too big brain for me with all the triggers on the stack and all the abilities working together. But this deck is really good. I think if I were a super good player, then we could probably take this thing to 7 wins. But we're starting off 3-2, which is not bad at all. I wouldn't be too unhappy with a 3-3 for this deck, simply because I think I'm just playing pretty poorly. I'm sure there have been many lines that I have missed with how many things are going on in these games. I think played perfectly, we could be maybe 5-0 right now. One of those matchups, our opponent was super aggressive with a great curve, but I think we definitely could be at least like 4-1 right now. But we'll take it. 3-2 to start it off, not bad at all. See if we can keep winning a few more games before we're out of it as we head into game number 6. All right, here we are on the play for game 6. Pretty decent hand here. It's kind of a lot of lands for trying to dump the hand out as quickly as possible with this Phial of Galadriel. But maybe turn 4 we can have our whole hand dumped out. That would be pretty sweet. Start things off with a Nimble Hobbit against their Esquire of the King, which can buff the whole board. for 3 mana if they have a legend, which is quite often in this format, like Lotho Corrupt Sheriff. Sheriff, I guess. When we cast our second spell each turn, they lose a life and get a treasure token, so... Oh, that happens when they cast a second spell as well. Oof, alright. Uh-oh, we hit a 5th land, and this is what I was worried about with a lot of lands with the Phial of Galadriel. We could get in a position where we can't dump our whole hand just because we can't play more than 1 land per turn. So even if I can... Oh god, alright, we lose, probably? Yeah, Horn of Gondor, they've got 2 humans now. We have nothing to blow that up. Next turn, they spend 3 mana, and then they have 4 humans total. The turn after that, they spend 3 mana, and they have 8 humans total. Yeah, this is just like a main deck artifact removal or lose card, pretty much. And for us, it's going to be a lose card, especially because we've drawn 6 lands this early, so we're not even going to get the draws off of the Phial of Galadriel. I guess I can at least kill, like, Lotho, but that's not even a human, so they're getting more soldiers, but any of these individual humans isn't that crazy. I guess if I kill Esquire of the King, that slows down their Horn of Gondor. This is pretty bad. Maybe killing Esquire of the King in response to Horn of Gondor is where it's at, since we are incredibly unlikely to dump our hand for Phial of Galadriel regardless, just because of the amount of lands drawn. Alright. Hobbit Sting, the Esquire of the King, so they only get 1, but I can't completely stop it from happening, which is bad. And now this turn they get 2 off of it. They're going to play Gothmog instead, so all their tokens have Death Touch. That is super disgusting with Horn of Gondor. So they're going to have 4 1/1s with Death Touch next time they activate it. Good grief. Another land draw means even if I curved out like nobody's business, we would still not be drawing 2 off a Phial of Galadriel. Oh my god. Wow. Yeah. Saddest Phial of Galadriel I have ever cast. We have played Phial of Galadriels today that never triggered, but the fact that they're never triggering because our 15 land deck has drawn 8, has had every land drop all the way up to 8, is super sad. We haven't even forest cycled anything. Alright, Horn of Gondor is going to make it so they have... Alright, land drop 9. Horn of Gondor is going to make it so they have 10 1/1 Death Touchers now. There's no out. This game ended on turn 3. Oh, Gothmog's a human too. Casual 14 damage to Generous Ent. Who would win? My entire deck or Horn of Gondor? Horn of Gondor by a lot. That's going to end it for us. Really sad way to end it, because it does really feel like we lost to 1 card. Horn of Gondor is wild. That might be the best rare in the format, come to think of it. Because if you're in a humans archetype, that thing's wild. I think we had an opportunity to pick one up in our draft pod. I don't remember when it was. I like how our deck ended up. But going strictly competitively, that card is so strong that if it was like our pack 2 pick one or something, it might have been better to like scoop that up and just head into red, white, or black, white humans rather than just sticking to the halflings here. The hobbits. Yeah, we only ended up with like 2 humans, but I guess maybe I should have just played it even by itself. The problem is if you play it by itself and your opponent responds with a hobbit sting to you trying to activate it and they kill your 1 human token, they can stop it forever, because if you never draw another human, then it's stuck there doing nothing, which is a pretty big downside. So I do think you want at least like 6 humans, and the card's just completely absurd if you have like 10 or more humans in your deck. So again, I'm happy with the deck that we drafted because it was a lot of fun and it was pretty streamlined, but that card is so absurd that in the future it might be the kind of card that is just worth a pivot no matter what you're doing, because that felt unstoppable. Just straight up have removal for an artifact or die. Sad way to end it. Would have been a lot cooler to not die to a Horn of Gondor, but it is what it is. I think I definitely could have played better today and gotten 1 or 2 more wins in here for sure. I think this deck was super sweet. It was a lot of fun. I really liked the generous Ent plan for the late game with the cycling. We did have some mana issues because of it sometimes. They get punished a little bit, like drawing 5 lands and a bunch of generous Ents in one of those games. Well, not a bunch of generous Ents, because if you had 2 of them in 5 lands, you could cycle 1 to play the other, which isn't bad, but we had, I think, a couple games where we had 1 generous Ent and 5 mana, and then we're just like, it's that awkward in between where you just don't want to cycle it because there's nothing to do with your 6 mana without the generous Ent, but you also can't play the generous Ent without the 6th mana, so had some awkward times with it, but all of the legendary food token cards got to combo together pretty well, and that was pretty fun. I don't think we ever drew Celeborn the Wise, so we never got to try to get that train rolling or anything, but I don't think that was super necessary or powerful for this deck regardless. But everything else was pretty sweet. A lot of synergies that I just couldn't figure out exactly, like Frodo Baggins. I didn't realize that when you play any legendaries, you get to tempt the ring, so playing Frodo and then tempting the ring even more by playing other creatures was massive. Being able to force your opponent's 1 toughness creatures to block Frodo was awesome. There were a lot of little synergies and stuff like that. And of course, the major synergies of all the food stuff. So really, really cool deck. I think that's going to be a really fun archetype to really dive deep on as the format progresses. Huge fan of Phial of Galadriel. We had a couple of games where it really didn't pan out incredibly well for us, but those were games we were just generally flooding out anyway, or just already far behind from the start. But most of the time, in a lot of games, you can get to a point where you dump your hand out and then this card is just absurd. And the fact that it also brought us some synergies with the food tokens, that was just the icing on the cake. That was just like overkill. So really liked this Phial of Galadriel. I think this thing's busted. So some really good stuff from the deck overall, even if it didn't pan out into an incredible record. 3-3, obviously perfectly even, little average run there. But I think the deck was great. I think I just didn't know what I was doing for the most part. And one of those games we got super aggroed out, and in another game we got absolutely bombed out. Both those things can really happen to any deck, even the best of decks. Our middle loss, our second loss, that was just me playing like a doofus overall, I think. So it is what it is. 3-3. Not a bad run at all. Little average run for our sweet little green-white Hobbits food deck. But that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons very much for supporting this channel, as well as you for watching. If you're interested in seeing more videos like this, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more of these videos in your recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below, and if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. Other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.